and welcome to McCall Center's Mini Art Lab. My name is Micah Cash, and I am a Charlotte-based visual artist and photographer, and predominantly work in the photographic medium, and think about different ways that we can tell stories, not just about ourselves, but also about the places we've been, the places we live, and the things that are important to us. And today, we're going to be talking about just that. How do you create narrative through your family photographs or the work that you make? And so we're going to think about three main things today. We're going to think about, what is our content? Are they photographs? Are they ticket stubs? Are they journal entries? We're also going to think about sequencing and narrative. Once we know what we want to tell the story with, how do we tell proper stories and make them our own? This is where we can take the power of being an artist, of being a creator, of being a storyteller, and make sure we can do it to the best of our ability, and also think about who we're going to make that story for. Is it just for us? Is it for a family member? Is it for an exhibition? All of those different things come into play when we think about how we want to structure the narrative and what we're going to use and how we're going to use it. And then finally, what is the deliverable? Like I said, is it an exhibition? Are we going to be talking about telling a story across a wall or across a book, for instance? Are we going to be taping these or gluing these photographs and different deliverables and different objects into these deliverables? I think that's incredibly important to think about. What is the output? A book, a photo album, an exhibition, or any other thing that your imagination can think of. So come with me. We're going to talk a little bit about sequence, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we want to do with those things. And so I have brought a variety of photographs here today, and we're going to talk about what can you do with them and what have I done with them in the past. So let's take a look at some of the photographs I have today. Here we have a variety of photographs that I've been making over the past 3 or 4 years. When I do my travels, as I am a photographer that likes to photograph and document the built environment. And I've published a variety of books on hydroelectric dams, as well as looking at waffle houses and the built environment from the windows of waffle houses. So it's natural for me to be on the road. And here are 9 images that I've made from gas stations. And so when I'm on my travels, I usually will fill up my tank and make a photograph from wherever I'm filling up my tank about what's around. So we have imagery of lots of different imagery of hotels, like we see here, of roads, of cars, and also sometimes the pumps. And these are laid out in no particular order. But let's say I want to make a small photo book with these 9 photographs. What's the best way to do that? I need to think about a few things. One, what is the content of the photographs? So I have these different hotels and the pumps. I also have some imagery that don't really include gas station imagery. So here's just an image of the parking lot. Here's an image of the street next to the gas station. And here's one of a Waffle House. You can't really see it because of the light, so I might move it over here. It's really the only photograph I have in this block that has a restaurant in it. So let's say I want to make a small book of 6 photographs. I need to narrow this down. So one of the strategies I might use is thinking about content. If I want, say, only 1 photograph of a hotel, and I have one with a Super 8 and a Quality Inn, I need to figure out which one I like more. Right now, I'm going to go with this one. So we're going to take out this one of the Quality Inn. It's going to go away. We're going to put that here. I'm going to keep this one of the Waffle House because I don't have any other images of restaurants. And I'm going to keep this one that has the big diesel sign, the kangaroo, because not only is it a really nice image formally with the way I have the space laid out, but I also like having these brands. We're seeing a connection now of brands: Waffle House, Super 8, Kangaroo. Here's one down here that has a pilot. This is also a nice one because it shows the price of the diesel or gasoline. And one of the things I always like to remind myself when I'm making images like this in my travels is I'm also making work that documents our society. So I can go back and say, I think that was an image from 2019. That was the price of gas in 2019. I find that compelling. Here's an image with some arrows. I like that idea since we're making a small little mini book about travel. And then we have these 3 left for one more slot. This image that you can kind of see over here Some clouds, that's nice, but we also have clouds over here. This image of some trash cans, not too compelling, but I do like these nice, what you call those, power lines coming along the side of the street. And then this image of the palm trees. Now, one of the things I think I'm going to choose, and you might choose one of the three yourself. That's totally fine. For my sake, I really like how this palm tree image is a little bit darker. If I look at the tonality of all of these images, we have similar tones up here, darker sky here, and maybe it's nice to have one that's just nice and dark with these dark trees in the background and the palm tree there. So now I have my 6 photographs. Now the thing I want to think about is, how am I going to tell this story? You might want to tell this story by using a map. And that's totally fine. You can cut out pieces of a map, put them on the wall, put them in a book, put them in some type of space where maybe you link these photographs in the book to where they were photographed. From my standpoint, I just want to tell a nice story through the images. And so I'm going to start with this one because coming in, if we read something left to right, it opens up, it comes to this sign and this top. Maybe then I'm going to do that one second because it's a nice wide open image of a Super 8 and we don't have any type of hotel imagery yet. And then I think what I'm going to do is keep this arrow. That's a nice central image. Maybe come back around to this Waffle House, also nice and open. I might switch it here. And then this is a nice open image, and I'm going to have this more closed image with this palm tree. And then finally, the diesel sign. One of the things that it's making me second guess is these have similar compositions, don't they? They're open on the left, they come in and we have the top of the gas station and some type of pump, or in this case, the pilot sign. So what if I have something that's a little different? Let me bring in some imagery to break that up. I have some other photographs here that I might not have necessarily wanted to use, like this one. This is a rather closed image as well. We have the side of a pump, side of a pole, but looking through. But it is drastically different than both of these compositions. So maybe I do that. Maybe I take this diesel image, which I like more, up here as the intro photograph, get rid of this one, and maybe close the series with something like this. It's pretty tight. I don't know if I like that. Maybe I do want to bring back in this quality in image. It has a similar composition, but it's closed here at the top. And then I thought to myself, when I first did this, right, I don't necessarily want 3 images of hotels, but maybe what I'm showing you is that the commonalities of these spaces is that there are a lot of hotels next to gas stations on interstates, which is predominantly where I was making this work. So maybe I do that. And if that's the case, here are the 6 photographs that I would use for my mini book. Let's take a look at a couple different types of books that I've made or that I might make with imagery such as this. So we just took a look at some photographs. Now, the photographs you might be using could be ones about your family or maybe more specific to a trip that you took, say to Disney World. My family took a trip to Disney World a few years ago, and my mother made us these books, which we get coupons for this kind of book all the time, right, in our email. And we think to ourselves, what would I do with that? Well, maybe it is something that is a representation of a family trip. Maybe it is something that is a representation of family members. Perhaps you have a new baby in the family and you want to make a narrative of that baby's first year. We'll get back to that because I have some photos as well. But you can have any of these books that you can do for mail order services. And it's important to understand, how do you tell a story from the first page to the last page? Now, if you're not telling a story, maybe you have something connected by content, like the black and white photos I just sequenced together. In which case, I could do something like this, which is a small little promo that I made for my own artistic practice, where all of these images are connected by the concepts behind them and the content in the photographs. And in that case, the direct narrative sequence isn't necessarily in the order I made them, but they are more laid out the same way I just showed, through pacing and through the content and through stitching that together into one coherent narrative. Now, Other ways you could make books, we all know about scrapbooks, and you can scrapbook different things together with your photographs, whether they're family or travel related or anything under the sun. Maybe they're even your artistic photographs. You can stitch in different ideas of that travel. Think the maps, like I talked about previously, or ticket stubs, or receipts from really important meals. Anything that was important to you that you have saved, you can put with this work. And that works in an exhibition setting as well. There's no reason you can't have a vitrine or a table with documents and objects important to the photographs or paintings that you might have on the wall. So make all of these different things applicable to your own life and your own studio practice, if you have one. Some other types of books. Here is an accordion fold book that I created. Very simple. And this is something that I could do just for myself, or it's something that I could do in a limited edition for an exhibition or to sell on my website. And I can easily use the size of these photographs on this paper. Here's something I created a number of years ago from travel that I was doing while I created my own book. And you can see it's the same accordion fold, but it has different photographs laid out. And what I had to do is the same process. I had to sequence those photographs, figure out how I wanted you to experience this book, because ultimately this was created as a mock-up of something that I would want to not only sell to collectors, but also include in exhibitions. You also might have something small like this. This is actually a sketch pad / journal that I use on my travels. And there's no reason I can't glue photographs in here or include different receipts or portions of maps, something that then takes something like this that is very private and personal and then creates it to be an experience just for one person at a time to read through my travels. Or maybe it's a gift. Maybe I'm taking something like this where I've been journaling or writing poetry and putting in other aspects of my creative process. And I'm going to give this to somebody. And then therefore it's not created as an art assignment or a piece of art for a gallery setting, but more as a personal communication. And that is just as beautiful. So thinking about all the different deliverables we have, we want to choose the one that fits our work. If I am making something with a lot of these different gas station photographs that are already artistic and conceptual, then I think I would probably need an output that matches that in terms of concept and in terms of a way for you to maybe look at all 6 or 8 or 10 at one time or experience them one at a time, since there is a lot of inherent repetition. But what if I'm doing something with my family? Let's take a look at some photographs that I have that I made when my first son was born a number of years ago. I've just photographed all the time. And let's say I want to then present those photographs to somebody else, maybe even a family member. How should I do that? Let's take a look. Here we have a selection of photographs of my son, Lucas. And I made all these photographs over the course of probably the first 6 months of his life with my phone. No big deal, just a dad photographing his kid. However, if I want to then take those photographs and put them in a different medium, whether it's a book, whether it's even family photographs on my wall or up and down my stairwell like we see in many homes, we should think about story. How do I want to present those? Do I want only super cute images that might be ready for social media like this? Or do I want images that are a little more personal, a little cuter? Here's an image of my office at the time. So my little son looking up and then all the books in my background. Maybe people don't need to know that, but if I'm photographing this and I want to hang it in my house, I think this is perfectly fine to have. So thinking about what's in the photographs is important, just like we would think about those photographs of the gas stations. We also need to think about what's the story I want to tell. Do I want these to be in some type of discussion of how old he was, right? From birth through maybe later in life. If that's the case, we need to put them in order. So maybe we put the little baby photos here. So to move them up, this one looks like he's a little older. We can maybe get to this. And then he's in this little bouncer. And then this one here, maybe that's the oldest. So would I want to present those in a book? Again, I can come back. I can pretend this is a scrapbook, right? And I'm putting this together for families. Maybe I'm going to take these photographs digitally and put them in a slideshow at a birthday party. Or I'm going to save these, or these are images of, say, you and your partner, or you and a loved one for a birthday party that they're having, or a retirement party. Whatever the content is, remember that the narrative and the structure of those images relate to the story you want to tell. If this is a retirement party, you might want to show how great the person is that is retiring. You might also want to show all of the really fun, crazy, memorable experiences that person had at the job that they devoted so much of their time to. So whatever your goal is, and whatever the subject of your slideshow or the subject of your book is, just keep that in mind as you tell that story. In this case, let's go with, we want to tell the story of my son's first few years alive. And we're going to do this two ways. I'm going to make a book out of it. I'm going to make a book out of it in one of those mail order photography companies that we get coupons for. It says free 8x8 book of 10 pages. Awesome. Let's do that. So I'm going to choose, if it's 8 pages or 12 pages, let's just choose a few photographs. I think what we have here looks really nice. The only thing is these two are kind of similar, aren't they? It's the same photograph of the same kid on this sort of carpeted background. I'm going to go with this one because he's looking at the camera and he's wearing this super cute outfit. And so now I have 7 photographs. If I have an 8 to 10 page book, that should be fine. 7 photographs. I can have one photograph where I maybe put my son's name, how much he weighed when he was born, and then maybe another text page. Because remember, you can add text to books, just like I added text here on this little promo image. It's got my social media and all of that, the different titles. You can do that for your scrapbooks. If you're journaling, if you're handwriting, you can do it for PowerPoints, certainly, if this is something, or you can do it for an exhibition. There's nothing wrong with having text on the wall or even text in a frame next to photographs. There are many wonderful and smart photographers that do that all of the time. And so what I would probably do is I'd have one page talking about all the information necessary about this child, and then maybe have some little text next to it about 3 days old, up to 3 months old, just to try to figure that out. And then also maybe have some text at the end, something very reflective. If this is something that I'm going to be giving to his grandparents, for instance, maybe there is something very personal that I wrote in that last page. If this is a photographic book that I'm making of those gas stations, I would have a page of information about where I traveled and why. So again, remember, the imagery you have, the content you have, dictates not only how you package it, but also how you might want to structure the narrative. If I'm talking about those gas stations, I'm talking about my travels and why I made them and where I made them. If I am making a book about a child, I'm talking about who that child is and the journey of their first few months in life. So let's take a look one last time at some of those different structures and think about how we can use them. So we've looked at different photographs and how we can structure photographs into a narrative. You might not be a photographer. You might be working with family photographs that you found in a shoebox in someone's garage. You could be working with drawings. You could be working with watercolors from your travels. It doesn't matter what you're working with, so long as you're looking for a way to stitch those things together into a different type of deliverable content, whether it's a book, whether it's a pamphlet, a scrapbook, a photo album, photos on a wall, images on a wall, or an exhibition of your work. Remember, it's a journey. Someone's going to look at that first page, or someone's going to look at that first image on a wall, and they're going to want to travel through that story, whether that story is your own because you made that work, or it's somebody else's because you're using family photographs that may have been made of someone else or are about something else that you think is important. And so when we think about those deliverables, always remember what you have should dictate what you create. And then who are you creating it for? Is it for yourself? Is it for a wide audience? Is it for sale? Or is it something that is a gift that you're just giving to somebody else to show that you care? No matter what it is, just keep in mind that structure and sequence is incredibly important. And you have every aspect under control because you get to decide how things are laid out and what you do with them. Whether you're gluing it, whether you are actually using needle and thread, whether you're putting them in a book that you've already created. Just remember, pacing matters, sequence matters, and story matters. So thank you so much for joining me today to talk about these issues and to think about different ways that we can tell stories, because we certainly all have amazing stories to tell. And if it's something that we think is that important that other people want to hear about it, then we need to do it in the best way possible. My name is Micah Cash. You can contact me or see anything that I'm up to at my website, micahcash.com, or find me on Instagram and Twitter at Micah Cash. Thank you so much for tuning in to this McCall Center mini art workshop, and I really appreciate it.